Welcome to my channel. In this video we will talk about inductor. An inductor is an electronic compound made with a wire warped around a ferrite core or iron core like this one, or simply without a core like this one. It's used in many electronic devices. The main two characteristics used in inductor. The first one is it opposes the variation of the current. For example, if we try to pass a current here, it will oppose this current. It will generate a voltage that opposes the current. And the second characteristic is the storage of energy. If we pass a current here, it will store the energy in the form of a magnetic field. And if we power off the source here, it will try to continue the current in this sense. This characteristic is used in the buck converter, DC to DC converter. And in this part it used as a shock. It will block the high frequency from getting to the circuit or going out from the circuit. We have here many forms of inductor. This one is use a ferrite core. There are many shapes of the ferrite core. This one is used with a flat cable to block the high frequency. Now we will try to look at the different uses of the inductor. In the first side we found the iron core inductor. This one is used to regulate the current in the fluorescent tube or in the gas discharge lamp like this one. This is a 1 kilowatt lamp, because for example here if we have a gas discharge lamp or neon lamp, if the gas is ionized here, it will act as a short circuit. So we must add an inductor. It's called in this case ballast. We have here the fluorescent tube ballast to regulate the current. Here we have the main voltage, 240 volt. So we add this ballast to regulate the current in this discharge lamp. Of course, the circuit needs an generator. This generator is to make a high voltage here, high voltage strike to ionize the discharge gas here for the lamp, for the bulb. This generator will make a high voltage spike here, and then the ballast will regulate the current. For the fluorescent tube, we have the starter that will, this one, the starter will make a spike in the, will cut the circuit, so the ballast will make a high voltage to the fluorescent tube, and then it will regulate the current. And for the ferrite core, we have many use of the inductor. The first one is the LC tuned circuit. For example, this circuit is formed by an inductor and a capacitor here. It's used for receiving the signal from the transmitter. We have a transmitter that transmits the time over the large wave. This is tuned to 77.5 kilohertz. For example, this one is tuned to 77.5 kilohertz. We can use also this inductor to shorten an antenna. For example, in this circuit, we have here a tuned LC circuit. This is the oscillator. This one is a 72 megahertz transmitter for RC car, for example, radio controlled car or toy. It has a power of 750 milliwatt. So we found here the LC circuit. This is the quartz oscillator. And here we have this L3. Its function is to short the antenna. We can use a small antenna, short antenna, with this coil. Also, for the LC tuned circuit, we can find this high frequency generator, which high frequency generator we can find here. You can see here that we have a variable capacitor associated with a different inductor to select the frequency band for each one from 0.68 microhenry to 68 millihenry. This one is the variable capacitor, and this one forms the oscillator, and here we have the output amplifier. For this one, this schematic, we have a receiver. This receiver, we have here a tow inductor. Those inductor to tune the frequency received. Of course, an inductor is its value is defined by the number of turn. So in every schematic we can find they give us the number of turn to make the inductor. You can find in the internet the different formula to calculate the inductance of the inductor based on the shape of the inductor and the number of turn. And in some case, for example, for this 68 to 88 megahertz receiver, FM receiver, we can find here the inductor in the. I will try to get the best position for the magazine. So here we have the input stage, and here we have the demodulator circuit, and here we have the power amplifier, the sound amplifier. In this case, for example, they tell us the number of number of the turn here. For this one, 8 turn, and for this one is 6 turn, 120 nanohenry, and this one 240 nanohenry. Also, an inductor can be made of PCB For example, in this case, this inductor here is made with PCB. This one. Also, we can find the formula to make this inductor. Now we come to the use of inductor in the LC filter. For example, here we have amplifier, a class D amplifier, and we found as the output an inductor to filter the high frequency part of the wave. Here we have those high frequency part will be filtered, and we get only the low frequency wave, the sound. This one, this filter is formed by 2 inductor and 2 capacitor. Also, inductor can be used as a shock inductor. It means it will be used to block the high frequency part. For example, here in this circuit, in this transmitter, we can find here those 2 inductors used as a shock. Here we have the power voltage coming from here, power supply, and here we have, in this part, we have a high frequency oscillation here, so we block this high frequency wave from getting out to the power supply from this part and from this part. So we have to use here to choke, like in this high frequency amplifier. They use it to choke here to block the high frequency from getting out to the power supply. Here we can find some tiny inductor they are using in this tuner. They are adjusted by moving the distance between this wind here. It can be adjusted, this one. Also, we can find the variable inductor like this one. It's called the trimmer. We can vary the inductance by varying the core, the position of the core inside or outside the winding. Also, an inductor can be used with DC to DC converter. For example, in this one, the boost converter. When the transistor is turned on, the current can flow in this side from the inductor to the transistor. And when we, in this part, we energize the inductor, and we have some energy stored here. And when we close the transistor in the off position, the inductor will try to continue the current and will boost the current and charge this capacitor. This diode must be a fast one, fast diode. And the cycle repeat. We can adjust here the voltage by adjusting the pulse width. We have a pulse width modulation here. Of course, we can here we can find the microcontroller that controls the MOSFET, and we can use a feedback to adjust the voltage here. Because every inductor, when the current passes, it will store the energy, and when we stop this current, it will try to maintain this current and will charge the capacitor. For example, in the relay, if we have here the coil of the relay, and here we have a BJT transistor, we use a diode to protect the transistor. Because when we energize the coil, here we have the contact of the relay, it will store an energy, and when we close the transistor, this energy will damage the transistor, will flow here and damage the transistor. So we put this diode here to shorten the coil, so the current will flow in this loop. Here we can find some inductor. This is a molded one. It's used for PCB. We can measure its inductance. Of course, we must use LC meter or this tester to test to get the value of the inductor. For example, this one is 10 microhenry. We can try to measure this one, for example. It's molded one, 271. This can't be, it has a short lead, so I will try to measure it with this contact here. This one is 230 microhenry. It said here 270. Of course, this tester can't measure a low value inductor. For example, if we test to try to measure this inductor, it will give us only the resistance. This is a PCB inductor. It's an inductor formed with PCB trays. It acts also as an antenna. Here we can find an inductor, two inductor in this transmitter, and one in this receiver. It's a variable inductor, it's streamer. And finally, we can see here those inductor, SMD inductor, they are used in the DC to DC converter. If you open a board of a laptop, we can find many from this one. SMD inductor, it's coupled with its rectifying diode here. Here we can find through-hole inductor. It's appear as a resistor, but it's inductor. We can differentiate it by the symbol. We have L284, and we have here the symbol of an inductor. Those are the shock inductor. They are used to block the high frequency from entering to the board or from escaping the board. Here we can find some inductor in this OLED radio board. This one form an inductor with the ferrite core. Here they put the wax to prevent bug from entering inside the inductor, because if we put any tiny object inside those inductors, they will modify the value. They have a small value. And here we have the variable capacitor between the station coupled with this inductor. Now we come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.